Hello, and welcome to another edition of Heavy Hands. I'm Connor. Joining me, as always, you know it's Mr. Phil.
Hey.
If I sound a little sick this week, Phil, it's because I am sick in the head.
So you've been inspired by the latest star to come out of the UFC.
Yeah, I'm Josh Hokit pilled now. I'm going to be sort of rude and abrasive, and then if anybody sees me with my shirt off, I'll sort of shamedly cup my cock and balls. Just kind of wander around muttering.
Stay around for the end of the show where Connor will be delivering a small rap.
Only a small rap, fortunately. Welcome to Heavy Hands. I was going to say I've got some allergies, so if you hear me sneezing or coughing at any point in the show, I apologize for that, but we should be fine to talk about UFC 327, which transpired this weekend in Miami, Florida. And overall review, Phil, I think we both...
I thought you were going to say transcended.
It transcended in Miami, Florida. Yeah. That's what you go to Miami for.
It was very good.
It was a pretty damn entertaining card. Yeah, it had its fair share of depressing, disappointing results. It also had more than its fair share of crazy wars and shocking finishes. And I was actually, as often happens these days, I had the result of the main event spoiled for me. Which for this one really does seem like it should be a massive hit because it was such a shocking outcome. But the way it was spoiled actually set me up to really enjoy it because it was mostly people who love Jiri Prochazka being extremely down about the shocking upset. Like, all I knew is that Ulberg was injured, but that he won anyway. And I gotta say, when I pulled up the fight to watch it myself, I was out of my damn seat when Carlos Ulberg scored that finish. I don't give a shit. I don't care about Carlos Ulberg. I spent half of our discussion last week saying that I don't really believe in a lot of his game. But I mean, a guy on one leg scoring a one-shot KO, like that's what combat sports is all about.
Yeah. It's obviously one of these ones where, like, if the fighters had been reversed, there would obviously be none of these narratives whatsoever.
Totally.
Can you imagine if, like, Jiri had blown his knee out and then had KO'd Carlos like this?
Mm-hmm.
There would be none of the incredibly weird narratives around this fight. There would just be like Jiri the Viking guts through it again. I mean, that's one of the things that makes the actual outcome so surprising, is that Carlos Ulberg has not been, like, historically one of these guys. It is like, its obvious comparator, Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, too. Carlos Ulberg isn't the kind of guy you expect to do that, much as you weren't the person to expect it from Leon Edwards. But yeah, I also sort of had it spoiled, but not in any way that was meaningful, because I tuned into Twitter. I think I turned it on accidentally, and I just saw someone being like, "Jiri's so stupid," and then I was like, "Okay, that's enough.
Yep,
let's go back."
That's
I was like,
that's sort of what I saw.
Someone being angry that Jiri is stupid, and I was like, I have nothing else to take from this. I don't know who won due to that. But that's it. That's all I saw. That sentence. And it didn't spoil it for me at all. It just added an odd flavor to watching it. I was just like, something weird's gonna happen.
Yeah, it was like asafoetida, that weird Indian spice that nobody can describe, but when it's there,
oh yeah,
that's Indian food, baby. You know you're eating the real thing.
Yep.
The idea that Jiri will do something stupid is the secret sauce to enjoying the fight.
I was like, again, it's not even much of a spoiler because I was like, sure, of course he is.
Yeah, that's his whole thing. Yeah, I saw that, more or less the same comment, and I also saw somebody talking about how there was no crowd response to Ulberg in his speech, even because he's such an NPC. And that was actually kind of accurate. It was kind of funny. It was like an RDA post-fight interview. He just did this like incredible, unbelievable. This is the fucking ace high straight flush of combat sports. Like, this is not supposed to happen. It's remarkable when it does. And then Ulberg is up there talking about, hard work and dedication, and the entire arena is just quiet. Nobody's inspired by his words following this incredibly inspiring action. But hey, in the modern UFC, you got two kinds of stars. There's the kind that aren't really stars because no one cares about them, and then there's dumb assholes. So take your pick. We are going to be talking about much of what went down at UFC 327 on this week's episode, but obviously we're going to start with that main event.
Burns Malott.
Yeah, Burns, excuse me. Yeah, we're going to be talking about most of next week's card. I saw a very smooth-looking promo for it, which got me really hyped. And the lineup
Smooth
is...
in what kind of way? In like an Anthony Pettis... GFL promo kind of way.
Yeah. Like good art design. That's how it looks, right?
Yeah.
I look at the lineup of the card, and it's looking pretty smooth too, I gotta say. No, UFC 327. Obviously, we're going to talk about Ulberg Prochazka first, more than we already have, even. And I want to say one thing before we get into what little technical breakdown we may have to offer here, which is that this was the first thing ever that actually made me dislike Jiri Prochazka. When he got up there after getting knocked out, by the way, remember when Joe Rogan said he wasn't going to interview fighters who had just been brutally knocked out anymore, like 3 years ago? He's getting interviewed. And hey, maybe that's the explanation for the stupid thing he says. But he of course, he makes a comment about how he felt mercy. He was feeling sorry with Carlos Ulberg in that moment, and that's why he lost the fight. And I gotta say, dishonorable statement.
Yeah,
that is not the samurai way. That's the first. I mean, if he had just said, I had him right where I wanted him, but he was a goddamn cornered animal and he got me. I took my eye off the prize. I would say, yes, sir, and I would bow deeply.
Well, as Steffi said on Twitter, like, this is the unfortunate thing about Jiri, is that for all the, samurai willing to die kind of stuff, he's a bit of an excuse merchant. I mean, the black magic.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the black magic?
Mm-hmm.
And now, the mercy thing. Obviously incredibly silly. Like,
yeah.
Not even like, oh, wow, what an amazing job he did. He got me. But just being like, oh, yeah, I showed him mercy. No, you didn't. You were rushing in trying to knock him out, and then he knocked you out. You didn't, Also, you low-kicked him, like, way more after it was clear that he was compromised.
Oh, yeah, at least, 8 times.
What this actually was that he was, it's a confusing thing to happen. And in a way that, can kind of discombobulate people.
Mm-hmm.
Because with someone who's badly compromised, you don't know how much you should be pushing it. You don't know how much you should be going after them, because Demetrius Johnson, Henry Cejudo, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Henry looks the rematch, obviously. Henry looks cooked at the beginning of that fight because he, the nerves go in his foot or his ankle or whatever it is,
right?
And he's barely able to stand on it for the entire first round. And in this case, if Prochazka wanted to win this fight, presumably he could have in fact just sat back on it. Ulberg's corner would not have let him come out for round 2.
Yeah.
And, or he could have just maybe won a decision. Whatever. This would be the quote unquote non-merciful, optimal way of winning, perhaps, but you just don't know. And I think it's a very confusing thing to happen. And it's very, people don't know how much they should be pressing their advantage.
Yeah, and the cornered animal thing is real. Like, your opponent, the entire paradigm has just shifted for your badly injured opponent. They're no longer thinking of how they're going to win rounds. They are thinking, I have to kill you with one shot. So it becomes, extremely precarious.
Yeah, and as much as you are, as much as you're like discombobulated by the fact that this guy's, clearly in trouble and you don't exactly know what to do, and it's a new factor, he's much more compromised because his knee's fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
And and obviously the last part of the whole Mercy thing, it's like, it wasn't mercy due to anything you did.
Yeah,
he popped his own knee. It wasn't like you had him in trouble.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this was some attack that you landed that caused this to happen. Yeah. It was just like, he was in trouble, and then because he stepped back weirdly trying to throw a left hook and blew his knee out.
A true samurai maybe would make that remark, but then their fellows would peer pressure them into committing ritual suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And given this is MMA, we're not doing real life and death here. We try not to anyway. But I would be happy to see Jiri Prochazka, rear naked choke himself.
Yeah.
You don't have to slit your belly open, but you got to, armbar yourself or something.
I think they should have the method of having like a second, so that he should be armbarring himself, or like getting ready to armbar himself, and then just as he's starting to lock in, his second comes up behind him and just like mercifully knocks him out with a 2x4.
Yeah, just cuts his head off. Oh shit! I
was going to say knock him out, because we are taking the MMA non-lethal approach.
So yeah, what much more is there to say about the fight? I guess like all the problems. You really can tie the result here very directly to the problems that Jiri was having with Khalil Roundtree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a guy whose whole style, his entire background as a fighter, is swarming and overwhelming people with pressure. And it's just becoming more and more clear that that's really the only way in which Jiri understands pressure. Because when it comes to a more methodical kind of approach where he's sort of, testing all the entry points, feinting and maintaining distance, he doesn't know how to create a smooth entry. Unless it's like this he's caught himself in this weird middle place, almost like what Curtis Blaydes has done to himself, where he's standing out at range with a guy and feinting, and nothing is really being sold, and then he just kind of like coils both legs and loads up to leap in or something, and then yank his head straight back out of range. His right hand is hanging by his belly button when he gets hit with that left hook. Like, what are we doing here? It's time for a double jab, my friend. You got a guy who literally can't put weight on his back foot without falling over, and he's in the corner. Double jab. And then do it again. And then he resets, and then kick his leg again. There really was a methodical way, obviously, for Jiri to win this fight. And he just, that's what happened to him against Roundtree. He just got stuck in that no man's land on the end of the other guy's reach, like making all kinds of big dramatic moves that are getting nothing out of the opponent.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the fight was basically, outside of super weird stuff happening, it was broadly going to expectations, which was that Ulberg would probably smoke Prochazka in the early going. He would be, able to low kick him a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And, eventually maybe Prochazka would get mad enough to go after him. But we never got to that point because weird stuff happened. But yeah, I think the one thing we missed, which a bunch of other people didn't, is just how vulnerable Jiri is to left hooks.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout. Yep.
Like, people have now like gone back to like every time he's been finished in his career, and it's him like just leaping through space into a counter left hook of some description or another. And yeah, that is the one like point of consistency, I think, which like potentially gives the lie to even the idea that if nothing had happened, was Jiri going to turn this around? Because Ulberg has not been the most incredibly consistent operator as we've seen, and like looking at all of that and looking at this fight, I'm just like, I don't know, man. He was getting clipped on his entries a lot.
I mean, it's still a surprise he got one-shotted by one of those Ulberg left hooks. That's like, he took a hell of a lot of punishment from Roundtree. So, yeah, none of that was particularly surprising. It's the effect of it was surprising.
But yeah, the attritional damage, Ulberg was low kicking him a bunch, sure. Again, just these are exactly the kind of things you expect. So yeah, I mean, I was to be honest, I was just like mostly happy to see this outcome happen. Again, I would like to see something other than business as usual in light heavyweight. I would like it's nice to see someone sort of separate themselves from the pack a little bit, and at least make the case that that they could fight Ankalaev, who is probably basically could still be considered the number one light heavyweight at the current time.
Well, now it'll work out perfectly because he and Ankalaev are both injured. We have yet another title with a champion who's not going to be able to defend for probably at least a year.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of glad that Jiri's like, let's just throw stuff at the wall and it will eventually work because I'm super tough. Plan just didn't actually work.
I mean, I kind of agree. As wacky as the circumstances were, like Ulberg did still kind of beat him by just sort of being like normal and responsible. So that's a win for the technique nerds as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I found myself thinking like the margin of victory for Jiri was smaller than I thought it was, even given all this, just because he's shown no ability to stop that punch from Ulberg. I think was that people were calling it a check hook. Is it a check hook?
No,
it didn't look like one. Don't you have to like pivot when you're throwing it? He just like he hops back and left hooks. Like the first one where he blew his knee out. He's just like he's hopping backwards. He's not pivoting.
This is yet another mind virus spread by the UFC commentary booth. Basically, they will say check hook anytime a left hook is a counter. Anytime.
Yeah.
Even if it's like an incidental counter and like a wild exchange, like, oh, look at that check hook. Yeah, it's just a term that's caught on and has lost all meaning. A check hook is a hook with an angle change.
Yep. He was hooking. I guess he was hooking a check, but
that's pretty good. Did you just think of that, Phil, or was that you had that one on deck?
I think it's been out there for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Surely,
yeah. You'd be ashamed if you were the first one to think of something so stupid. So yeah, I don't know what it is an unfortunate circumstance that the division is now going to be log jammed yet again. Who knows? Maybe they'll pressure Ulberg into giving up the title, and we'll have another vacant title fight in the light heavyweight division. That's a bit of a bummer.
Behrman did say, I think, that he thinks Ulberg's might be okay.
Who?
But who knows?
Eugene Behrman? There's no way.
Yeah.
He tore a major ligament in his knee. I have no doubt of that. Your leg doesn't contort and wobble and snap around like that if you haven't ripped something under high tension that isn't supposed to be ripped.
Yeah, he says, knee injury not as serious as feared, but yeah, I suspect you're probably correct. Like, yeah, you can see the rippling in his leg in slow motion as parts of his parts of his leg take their leave of each other.
Yeah, that's a serious knee injury. I have no doubt of that. Not to mention the way that he was acting on it. Like, I've seen people tear their ACLs and have more stability than that. Like when Conor McGregor tore his. Maybe his wasn't a complete tear or something, but he was still able to move around in that Max Holloway fight. Ulberg couldn't put any weight on his back leg at all. He may have even exacerbated it because he tried to throw a fucking left high kick in which he literally had to plant the ball of his right foot on the ground and twist his leg. Which is exactly what the ACL is meant to support. So, but that aside, like, I do just want to emphasize that this was an all-time crazy result. I was a little dismayed to see that had been lost a little bit, and this was fucking
also,
bananas.
That got lost in like the weirdest version of this narrative imaginable.
What's that?
Like the people, well, the idea that like people are now like, well, that was Yuri's fight. How did he lose it? It's like, at what point was that Yuri's fight?
Well, it was Yuri's fight because his opponent was badly injured, I guess. That's it. That's what makes it feel like he had a win on the table.
They're like, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to injure him. The other guy got injured, and then Yuri got knocked out. Like, there's no... He didn't contribute anything to that apart from running in and getting himself KO'd. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's people are like, man, I can't believe he threw it away like that. He didn't do anything. He wasn't winning before that happened.
Well, I mean, he probably was, right? But by circumstance. I hear what you're saying. He was winning the round.
He could have basically stolen a win.
Yeah.
Because Ulberg's knee came out. But it's just it's the narrative around it is just so bizarre.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like people aren't like, man, what an incredible comeback. People are like, it's mostly just seems to be either people justifiably annoyed by Yuri or like people just being like, God, I can't believe he.
Yeah, I mean, I'm annoyed by him too
because of his incredible honor.
Yeah, I'm annoyed by him too.
Weird.
Because he felt like a goddamn blockhead and then dragged his honor through the mud. But the end of the day, like, Carlos Ulberg did a once in a lifetime sports achievement kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
genuinely incredible.
Agreed. Okay, let's take a break on that note. We have lots of other fights to talk about. The triumphant return of big boy Paulo Costa. I guess we might talk about Josh Hokit, Curtis Blaydes. We're going to talk about Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker. A fascinating fight. And we definitely have to talk about Cub Swanson. Of all the things I was wrong about on this card, boy, was I happy that was the one I got right. Aaron Pico, Patricio Pitbull. There is stuff to discuss. I want to talk about Gamrot, too. We'll get to it after this. Hey, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, you might consider supporting us on our frankly underpriced Patreon. Not that what you find on there is particularly good, but it is only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/heavyhands to find fight commentaries, bonus episodes, and more as often as we can be bothered to post them. Patreon.com/heavyhands. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the show. All right. Things are getting real now as we move into the body of the card. Phil and I are both getting drunk.
Yay.
Phil is drinking a boutique import liqueur available only to the upper caste of British society. And I'm drinking good old American rye whiskey.
And Coke?
You wouldn't have. No. Neat, motherfucker. Oh, the cocaine. Yes, I am also doing lines.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, that's pretty much a given. So.
I apologize. I thought you meant
for the high energy that suffuses Heavy Hands every week. People are like, how do they do it? Now you know.
That would be so bleak if it came out we were just high on coke in every episode. What's wrong
God,
with their
imagine
coke?
what these guys are like off it. Imagine how much he pauses when he's sober. How much dead air you get then. This is Phil talking at like a six whatever the talking a storm up. This is
breakneck pace. The co-main event of 327 was Bohashinia himself, Paulo Costa, back up at 205 against Azamat Murzakanov. This was a pretty fun fight.
This was great.
Mm-hmm. And yet dispiriting to me. Dispiriting to me as an analyst, because what have we always said, Phil? We want to watch a fight and learn something. And I don't know what I have learned about Paulo Costa now that he's picked up this win.
I feel like I've learned something about Paulo Costa. I just haven't been able to process what it is yet.
Oh, okay.
The knowledge lurks somewhere in my brain, but I have not been able to transform it into any kind of notable heuristic or rule of thumb or piece of information I could take away from this, other than that Paulo Costa can be very good at MMA when he wants to be.
Yeah, I don't. That's not something I've learned because I knew that already.
Yeah, I don't even know if I knew that to this extent.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is now 2 consecutive fights that we've had where Costa has looked like as good as he ever has.
Yeah, I would agree.
And also mostly 2 fights fought in very different ways. One of him taking a back foot performance against a pressuring southpaw. The other one, him pressuring a gangly kicker who fights out of orthodox, looking very good in both of these fights, and just looking not just someone who's trying, someone who's thought about how he wants to approach the fight. Just like a complete bizarre transformation in a way that you just couldn't possibly have seen coming.
Yeah, that's the perplexing, that's the confounding part of it for me. It's just what to make of Paulo Costa. I can talk about this performance in particular and agree that it was a pretty good one. In fact, I didn't think Murzakanov fought a terribly bad fight himself.
No, I mean, yeah, as I said, this was just like a good fight. In that second round, you were just oh, is Murzakanov just going to break him?
Yeah,
certainly looked like he would. Is he just going to push through and kind of and bully him? And then Costa just turned it around in round 3. Just made sure he threw in enough sharp, damaging offense that Murzakanov was oh, I really cannot go after this guy, and then was just taken out.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'll say about Paulo Costa too, this is something I have learned over the years. He recovers like a motherfucker. Stamina wise, not from getting hurt. I haven't seen him hurt all that often, to be honest. He buzzed a couple times in this fight, and then get knocked out by Izzy. He's typically very durable, but even that Marvin Vettori fight that we were just kind of mentioning aside a few minutes ago, that's him out of shape, more than out of shape, literally out of his weight class, and up into the next one. And his hairline never looked worse. His confidence was at an all-time low. And yet, he fought a torrid fight, the entire time against Marvin Vettori. Pushed a really crazy pace, and every time you thought he was flagging and he was going to run out of gas altogether, he would come back the next round and be refreshed. That is a power of his, and I think it came in very critical here because he had a really energy-intensive approach to the first round, moving around a lot of kicks. And then it almost started to look like one of those funny things where even though he was kicking Murzakanov in the body over and over, it was taking more out of him.
Like his fight with Yoel Romero.
Yeah, right. Which, of course, was compounded by the fact that Murzakanov himself was doing a great job of poking Costa's body with the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then Costa's footwork slowed down, and we started to get more of a kind of a toe-to-toe fight, which obviously favored Murzakanov's not only his frame but his superior pocket punching mechanics. And then round 3, by the end of round 2, both guys were really fucking tired. I think a little bit of wrestling. There were a couple of head and arm throws from Murzakanov into an attempted scarf hold choke finish.
Yeah.
Which was a wild choice. And I think that was the last of the energy that Murzakanov had. Round 3 comes around and Costa recovered faster and just put it on him.
Yeah.
But like even in the moments when Murzakanov is kind of running Costa over, like just before that that throw into the scarf hold, you know, Murzakanov's all over me, throws like a 1-2, and Costa slips and fires a left uppercut to the pit of the stomach that like visibly sucks the air out of Murzakanov's body. Like, you don't want Paulo Costa to be like a hard motherfucker who just based on his personality and how he looks. But I'm sorry to say he is. If you bring a crazy fight to Paulo Costa, even on his worst night, he will always fight his ass off.
Yeah. Like, even that Vittori fight. Yeah. He's
the Vittori fight, the Rockhold fight, even when he looks like shit.
Yeah. And he just won't go away. He will keep throwing like hard shots whilst looking, whilst heaving for breath.
As his hair somehow gets thinner and thinner with each passing minute.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking in like round 2 of this fight. I was like, his hair was like super consistent in round 1, and it's just starting to go in round 2. Is this going to be it? But then no, just turned it round, and round 3 came out with like a big burst and put Murzakanov away.
Yep.
I don't. The thing is, what upsets me is I don't want to believe in Paulo Costa.
That's the thing. Yeah.
I've been burned too many times, and I feel like it's dishonest of him to like be good now.
Exactly.
Like. Because I just feel like he's trying to trick me. That is what I am. That is my main like thing that I'm annoyed about.
That is precisely what I was trying to say before, in different words.
I mean, I wasn't. This is the kind of guy this is the kind of fighter where someone would like pick them to beat a champion, and it wouldn't end up being a. And end up looking like the kind of pick that an idiot would make. If you'd seen this guy coming up to fight for like a belt and you picked him, you wouldn't end up looking like a moron. Like that guy that picked him to beat Israel Adesanya. Like,
who was that?
Then I can't remember. It was just some utter fool.
We should get him.
But yeah. But then Costa fought that fight and then just looked absolutely terrible, and then has looked terrible in one way or another in every single fight since, apart from these last 2. So yeah, I do actually kind of understand your
it's like
trepidation and
man?
Annoyance, because it's just the idea that he's just setting us up again.
Yeah, why'd you have to go and do something cool? Why'd you have to remind me of when I was excited about you as a contender?
Yeah,
it's not nice.
Yeah, I mean, is he staying at light heavyweight? Light heavyweight's dead as fuck. Like,
oh yeah, he could absolutely have a second career here. Murzakanov is one of the toughest dudes in the division.
Yeah, I mean, who else is there?
He's going to struggle with Johnny Walker after this.
Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree, Jan Blov. He's not beating Jan Blachowicz, let's be honest. Yeah. Jiri, who I would almost certainly pick him to beat at this point, maybe.
He can fucking counterpunch. I mean, he could be losing the whole fight to Jiri and still be alive.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think he could probably make it to like another belt in this division.
Yeah,
another. Depending on whether it just gets whether one night actually gets defended or anything happens because everyone's injured, but yeah, he's looking like the fighter that everyone was thrilled about, and it's very difficult to know exactly why.
Yeah, that's the
Again,
thing.
it's this. People were saying, maybe it's just that he's really good at fighting southpaws, and we did, call that out. He is good at it in terms of, throwing the body kicks. He's still he's been a strong open stance jabber, etc. And sure, he's definitely that. But also, Marvin Vittori's a southpaw, and he looked like shit against him.
Yeah.
There's no technical explanation. I don't think I cannot find one. It is merely that Paulo Costa is a head case.
There's a technical explanation to be given for every individual fight, but to describe who Paulo Costa is, impossible.
Yeah. You just have to be like, sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's just tough.
Mm-hmm. He's always tough. Yeah, I will give him that.
Yep.
Well, we got a few minutes before we should move on from this segment. What do you say we squeeze in Josh Hokit and Curtis Blaydes?
Future. This, I think, was one of my subtlest tweets, which didn't get much traction. I just said, Josh Hokit looks like a future champion in the UFC heavyweight division. And I did not elaborate whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. That's
because he does.
Is that subtle, or it's just sort of a statement, isn't it?
I mean, that's what it takes nowadays.
I mean, yeah.
It's like some people are like, I don't think he looks very good. Sure. Doesn't really necessarily.
What makes you think you're disagreeing with what I said?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because this division is doomed.
My God,
and
man.
he's 28.
Yeah, I try not to exclusively break down fights from the perspective of what the loser did wrong. There's always a bit of that, of course. Sometimes a lot of it, but it's always good to reflect both sides of what happened in any given fight. But for this one, I just can't help but say that what has happened to Curtis Blaydes? It's not like this is unprecedented. Like, you wouldn't have to be a genius to have seen this coming. Clearly, I'm not a genius, but fuck, man. Like, this was such a bad showing from Curtis Blaydes. Like, I just watch every fight of his now, and I'm like, what is the plan? What is your plan for winning this fight? I mean, can you answer that question? What was Curtis Blaydes' plan for winning this fight?
I mean, it immediately went out of his head because Josh Hokit rushed him.
Yeah, maybe he did have a plan, and maybe he always has a plan, and it just vanishes the moment something spins out of control, which is how you know it's a good plan, by the way. They often say a plan that cannot survive contact with the enemy is a good one.
Yeah. That is how that saying goes.
I mean,
Blaydes he's just not a natural. He's not a natural MMA fighter. It's just one of these things. It's like Phil Davis or in some ways like Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like certain elements of the game that he's simply never going to be comfortable with.
Yeah,
and those include striking, and that's not he can be trained to be mechanically better at striking,
and he's
never going to be. He's never going to be like comfortable with it, and he's always going to be freaking out and weird. And yeah, I mean, Hokit is comfortable with striking
to the extent that he did the looking in the distance to see where the punch that missed move, while like stumbling and falling over.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
trying to look slick.
But yeah, I mean, I genuinely think like Hokit he looks okay. Like he's got like some instincts for like how to avoid punches. He understands like how he should pressure.
Yeah,
you can see that he is something of a natural.
I agree with that. I agree. Yeah, he because Curtis Blaydes is so much better technically equipped, even as a striker.
Mm-hmm.
But Curtis Blaydes, when you see him like trying to move his head, for example, it's immediately clear he has no understanding of how these techniques are meant to be used. Like he can't form a picture of like this sort of strategic flow of the fight. And he freezes up, gets hit with one shot and just freezes in place and eats 3 more. And whereas Josh Hokit is like so much more consistently out of position and off balance, and he has no defensive skills at all, but he's clearly still able to see a shot coming now and then, or roll with a punch to take some of the heat off of it. Like, I agree. He clearly had a feel for these ludicrous exchanges that Curtis Blaydes did not and never has and never will.
Yep. So yeah, like I said, he's a future champ. He's 28 years old. There's there's other, the heavyweight division is pretty red hot at the moment, actually, because we've got Tyrell Fortune, who was who was actually like genuinely a very good prospect back in the day and has sort of flattened out a little bit. Could always turn it around because he's got an incredible physical base to do it from, but it's still 35 years old. But also John Jones's rapist friend who's coming into the UFC.
One of John Jones's rapist friends.
It's a very good clarification. Which means, but other than that, okay, is just going to be able to simply outlast the people in the heavyweight division. I do not think Alex Pereira is going to be around for long. I don't think Cyril Gane is going to be around for long. I think there's a very strong chance that we never see Tom Aspinall fight again. And then other than that, we're talking like Alexander Volkov, who has done an incredible job of maintaining his consistency as he gets extremely old, but is extremely old. And then like Sergey Pavlovich, who they are going to keep away from Josh Hokit until he is also old.
Nonetheless, I'm a little surprised to hear you say this with such confidence because, I think Hokit maybe has something, and this is certainly the most forgiving division to only sort of have something. But like, are you forgetting that he's a heavyweight prospect, Phil? These guys don't fucking pan out.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, but this thing, did you really think of him as being like a prospect when you saw him? Or you're just like, oh, this guy sucks? So he's got that going for him.
The stealth.
Yeah.
Could sort of slip in there and suddenly be champion.
Yeah. But, I thought that, this fight was a tremendous amount of fun. Like, he's, as I was saying before the call, like, he's a bit like Colby Covington. In that, like, his fights are actually like, the sheer like pace and intensity that he is keeping up is genuinely pretty impressive.
Yeah,
he is a gritty dude. Who's probably going to do quite well in the heavyweight division. I suspect he'll get brutally bounced back at some point, but like he just has years to do this. I don't think he's like going to be skyrocketing to the title or anything. Again, if he runs into Sergey Pavlovich, I would be surprised if he beat him.
Yeah.
And in fact did not get knocked out. As Sergey Pavlovich has much of the same sort of instincts and sort of feel for how to hit people, but who also hits people really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And has actually learned how to strike properly.
Yeah. Hokit seems pretty fast and he's crazy, but he has none of the technical polish and doesn't have the size that we usually associate with elite heavyweights either.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm just gonna guess that he's gonna somehow
maybe he's
gonna have at least one humiliating bounce back, but then he'll just people just age out of the heavyweight division.
Yeah, maybe he's the next Fedor. Maybe if I spoke Russian, this is how dumb I would think Fedor is. You never know.
Yeah, it's actually that they cut out the raps that Fedor did after the Pride events.
Like, the one he delivered after beating Crow Cop.
You're destroying your image too much. He was like, no.
Please stop doing Russian Orthodox themed bars. I'm begging you. Stop saying cringy things and then kissing your little wooden cross. Nobody wants that. Yeah. So that was the heavyweight fight. We got at least 3 or 4 more to discuss. We may get some bonus content out of this one, but we must talk about Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker after this break. I insist. And then we'll talk about the incredible final fight of Cub Swanson. All of that and more after this. Supporting us on Patreon is great, but there are other, even easier ways to support the show. In fact, you can follow this simple 2-step plan. Step 1, make a friend. Any friend at all. Step 2, tell them about Heavy Hands. In lieu of that, you could leave a positive rating or review for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Back to the show. Welcome back to Heavy Hands. Let's talk about, they're calling it the People's Main Event. Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker. The final event of the psychosexual Olympics. we asked the question last week, Phil. How hot is Johnny Walker really? And this was fascinating because when the fight began, it was so clear that Dominic Reyes did not believe in Johnny Walker's sexual viability one iota. He was coming at him as if defending all women in the world from Johnny Walker.
Mm-hmm.
He was approaching him with a focus, like it was his duty to stop him. But this was like a classic rom-com. This was like When Harry Met Sally, or Pride and Prejudice. You know, when he first met Johnny Walker, how could he ever be attracted to this man? He's absurd. Yep. I mean, this is frankly ridiculous.
Yep. The googly eyes, the ridiculous grin, the top knot.
Yes. But as the fight progressed, Dominic Reyes fell deeply, deeply in love with Johnny Walker, such that he was incapable of doing anything to hurt him. A fascinating love story that played out in Miami last weekend.
Yeah, we didn't do so great on the picks for this card.
No,
in general.
God, no. When did we?
And yeah, for this one, I feel like we split picks on it, and we both managed to be wrong because you were like, Johnny Walker, Dominic Reyes will be too scared of Johnny Walker to get him, and I was like, I don't know, something tells me that Dominic Reyes is going to freak out, just the sheer size and the consistency of Johnny Walker is the fact that he's not good, but he's not ever like that different.
He's always the exact same kind of not good.
Yeah, you never get the impression that he's struggling with anything within himself. He's just not good, and that allows him to beat much better people every now and again. But so yeah, I mean, he was clearly freaked out. But then again, I neglected to think of I neglected to think through my pick the whole way. Just like, once Dominic Reyes has Johnny Walker freaked out, what is Johnny Walker going to do?
Oh, other way around, you mean? Once Johnny Walker has
once Johnny Walker has freaked out Dominic Reyes, what's Johnny Walker going to do?
What
does Johnny Walker do in fights? Because Dominic Reyes at least has some stuff that he can do. He can counterpunch a bit and so on. Johnny Walker, he just doesn't have a game.
Nope. He had one round of low kicks, which were working pretty good. And then they just kind of sort of gradually and then all at once just kind of vanished. And
he kept doing them, but it was like, It was a slightly more than 1 per minute over the course of the second and third rounds.
I mean, his output.
Yeah, it's just that like he can't like punch, he can't wrestle. But like every fight that he's won has been some physically underpowered person like lunging into him and then detonating under like the sheer, almost accidental physical power that he brings to bear. Like poor Paul Craig, or in fact, you know, his incredible fight with Zhang Mingyang.
Yes, an all-timer.
Where like his only thing that he can do, his low kicks, just caused Zhang Mingyang's leg to detach from his body.
Yep.
Meanwhile, like he did that against like a prehistoric Thiago Santos, and Thiago Santos was just like, "What? We're just hanging out at range and doing kicks? Sure, I can actually do that. I actually have kicks I can throw."
How sad this division has sunk so low below the level set by Thiago Santos. Oh,
he was just like the master technician and the crafty vet in that particular fight.
Yep. And then, this I've seen fights peter out like this. I've seen a few light heavyweight fights peter out like this. But, I was just astounded by Dominic Reyes's absolute refusal to do anything other than the two things he came into the fight prepared to do. And likewise for Johnny Walker. It's just that the things Johnny Walker wanted to do worked at a range where the things Reyes wanted to do didn't.
Yep.
That was the entire fight. So anyway, I just wanted to make a joke about Dominic Reyes falling for Johnny Walker over time, really.
I mean, this was a good card because this card had so much to it.
Yeah, you need one of those.
In absolutely insane brawl, kind of technical two-way battle between Costa and Murzakanov, and also between, to some extent, Pitbull and Pico and so on. Crazy outcome. And this was just like, this was a legendarily stinky fight, which it kind of slid in well because you were like, sure, I can understand what's going on here.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just watching it, and there's the it's
the takedown,
just like the stuff in the corners that I obviously skipped over. It's just running in the background, and there's the like Dominic Reyes is looking, trying to look extremely focused in the corner.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe because I saw like a clip of it. He does look like more than a little bit like when he's trying to look focused and badass. He looks a little bit like Jeremy Strong in Succession when Jeremy Strong is trying to look focused and badass.
When Kendall thinks he's like winning.
Yeah. The same. So like there's the two sides of the corner of like the two corners of Reyes like trying to look cool, and then Johnny Walker is like just leaning on the side of the octagon, and then at one point he just turns to the camera and then just pulls a fucking Johnny Walker face at it for like half a second and then goes back.
Yep.
Just like, I have to get this in there. I have to just like do the boogly eyes and go and like open my mouth and stick my tongue out.
Ooh,
and then go back to looking exhausted.
Bored. Yeah.
But like truly, genuinely awful. Like afterwards, like Dominic Reyes was like, people wanted this to be exciting, but I've got a family to feed or whatever. And it's like, barely won this.
Yeah, I mean,
like it was a coin flip.
I'm really not sure that he did. I mean, the only thing stopping me from saying that Dominic Reyes got an undeserved win is that Johnny Walker's win would have felt almost equally empty. So, I mean, nothing happened. There was nothing decisive. And yeah, you really could see, like particularly in that first round, like Reyes was trying to like embody a confidence. Like I think he must have recognized that that's really his issue. Is that he doesn't believe in himself and can't like stay focused and just flow with the fight because he's like anxiously over intellectualizing everything that happens. And so you could really see him trying to like embody confidence in his posture and his pressure. And it's just like, what? Like I guess he was hoping Johnny Walker would do something really, really stupid. and
Mm-hmm.
like blunder into something, because he had no plan for like seizing the initiative or testing Johnny Walker's defenses or testing his counters. And I mean, shit, like it ultimately had the feeling of Dominic Reyes' pressure being put off by the vaunted counterpunching of Johnny Walker.
Yep.
Like
Simply, not that Johnny Walker landed.
Not that he landed any counters, but he might have.
How many punches do you think he landed in this fight?
Punches?
I'm going to say like, Johnny Walker, like 5?
At most. Yeah, at most.
But yeah, it was just the presence and the fact that he sort of threw a couple at the end of like round 1. Threw them really hard and they didn't land. And
just didn't matter how hard Reyes tried to mask it. He just did not believe that he could step in and throw 2 punches in a row and hit Johnny Walker without getting hit in return.
Yeah. As I said at the time, when it happened, God bless Volkan Oezdemir when he fought Johnny Walker, because he knew what the assignment was.
Yep.
He was just like, this guy is bullshit.
Yep.
I'm just going to walk up to him and hit him in the face.
Yep.
And he did, and the fight was over immediately.
And watching this, I still have no doubt that if Dominic Reyes were the kind of guy who could convince himself to do that, he could have won this very easily too.
100%.
He's just handcuffed the entire time. Okay, but let's and this will probably be the one that we close out the main episode with at the very least. Let's talk about Cub fucking Swanson.
Yay.
Of all the shit I got wrong on this card, as I said, boy, was I happy to have nailed this one to a T. I mean, saying that, I didn't expect Cub Swanson to go out there and just light Nate Landwehr up and dust his ass in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But I did look at Nate Landwehr and say, he's too plodding, he's too slow, he has no range tools. Cub is going to just outfox him. I believe I used the word outclass.
Mm-hmm.
And even as I felt that I was consigning Cub to a fiery hell in saying those words, I just believed it too much to sadness hedge. And goddamn it, he outclassed Nate Landwehr. Absolutely.
Yeah, just because I watched this. I watched this fight, and I was after I saw this, I was just like, you know what? I don't care what happens in the rest of this card.
Yeah, same.
Like, as in, I have, I've got this one. You can. I don't mind what any of the.
I'm emotionally fulfilled
basically.
now.
Yep, there's nothing. As I said, I was happy. I was like, Josh Hokit won, and I was like, he seems annoying. I don't mind. I'm happy. Cub won. Everything about this, yeah. As soon as it was done, I was just like, awesome, great stuff. What you so rarely get to see,
Truly.
A truly beloved action fighter going out on an absolute high. I mean, we're fortunate that we've seen, frankly, like a few of these at this point.
Robbie Lawler,
and Chris Lytle.
Yes,
the two that I can think of. They just come out and they have just like a tremendous performance against a very credible opponent that you had every reason to like be concerned with, because you're like, this is someone that this guy would have smoked in his prime, but he might not be able to beat him now. And they just come out and they look absolutely vintage, and then they retire, and you're just left with the memories, and it was great.
Yep. Please let this be it. I mean, as I understand, he only did this because the UFC pressured him into it.
Yeah, because I believe he said he was going to retire last time, and then he couldn't quite make himself do it, and his wife was incredibly, visibly mad with him.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Well, we talked about it, but now that I've won, I'm really not so sure.
He got a tongue lashing when he got home after that
Cub.
one.
You retire and take care of your 3 almost completely identical children.
Mm-hmm.
He did have 3 like absolutely identical, cute little babies. They all had the same glasses and everything.
They're just driving home, and Cub's like, wow, it's such a great fight, I just really performed. He's just still on the high, and his wife's just like sitting there, like quietly driving, just like nodding, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin, what about the retirement that we talked about?
Well, did you hear how Joe was saying how I looked as good as ever? I haven't slowed down or anything. I mean, what did you think? It was pretty good, right? My win was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honey. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
But
whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do.
This genuinely was vintage Cub. The
it
jab,
really was.
the body work, the sneaky looping punches around the guard.
Mm-hmm. But also, like,
even the.
Go on.
No, you go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say what drew my eye, as is often the case, is like some boring little stuff. But like, I watched these out of order, so I had seen Prochazka Ulberg already when I watched this, and like just all the little stuff that Cub does. That just like not only does it scream just experienced fighter, but like fuck, Jiri Prochazka's plenty experienced by now too. It screams guy who actually knows how to box. Guy who trains with good boxers, who has a boxing coach who trains successful boxers. Like all the little positional maintenance work. When Cub has Nate Landwehr cornered, first of all, he doesn't run away and give him space because he's anxious about how to kill a wounded animal. But every time Nate Landwehr makes a move, Cub will adjust his feet. Not just moving in and out, creating, like maintaining space, but changing the angle. Like all these little moves that just mean that you never get caught in a position where you're completely unprepared for something that might hit you. Like, he just looked so solid. I know Cub has, like, weird, wacky punches, and he's always willing to throw technique out the window. Like I said about Murzakanov last week, Technique is never a shackle to Cub Swanson. If the opening's there, he's going to fling himself at it. And that might give you the impression that he is not a good boxer. But I tell you he is. He is constantly maintaining his position so that the opponent cannot just get to him for free. And a position in which if they do try to force their way in, he can punish them. And if they force their way in successfully, he's balanced and he's ready to move his head and cut an angle and reset and start over again. Like, that's what really drew my eye, was just how in control Cub looked. This wasn't him going out there and just barnstorming Nate Landwehr. He outclassed him. He had complete control of the fight, had the initiative, had Landwehr biting on his feints, was able to play little switch-up attacking games on him all day. Like, this was such a savvy win on top of being a beautifully violent conclusion to his career. He's such a fucking pro, I'm really, really going to miss Cub Swanson. I've enjoyed watching him so much even in this final stage of his career because he's still doing all those things. He's just a goddamn pro. He is a real craftsman.
I mean, I'm not gonna miss him because it's been such a consistent pleasure. I'm just very glad we never had to, Cub Swanson never kind of got ruined.
Yeah.
It was, as I said last time, he's never been that guy where you've been looking at him, you're like, oh no, I don't know if I want to see you fighting again. Because he's always been someone you want to see fight, even when he's had tough losses. One of those guys that's just been consistently thrilling, consistently high level, consistently interesting, different phases throughout his career, but like a continuous, like idiosyncratic line through all of them so that you can always know exactly who you're looking at and what you're seeing. One of the guys where, people who speak to other MMA fighters more than us have said, you will never find anyone who has a bad word to say about Cub Swanson.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just, a tremendously long and tremendously tough career to be maintaining that kind of level for, because he was pretty much always fighting either good guys or the best guys. And, to put one way of looking at it, like he was the tough veteran who was fighting like Dustin Poirier.
Right.
In Poirier's, I think, was it his first main event, or was that the Korean Zombie fight? But like Swanson was considered like the tough veteran holding the gates by that point.
That was 2013.
And Dustin Poirier was like the up and coming prospect, and Dustin Poirier retired before him.
Yep, got old and retired before him. Cub Swanson is 42 years old. His pro career started in 2004. This is his 22nd year of professional MMA.
Yep.
And he closes out...
Came from an incredibly tough home life. I think, drug addiction and like a broken family and so on. And has just been, as I said, just one of the most consistent idiosyncratic, unique, enjoyable fighters that we've kind of ever seen in MMA. And yes, I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna miss him, because it's just a perfect end, and I'm glad to see him. Like I'm so glad to see him looking that good, and this being my last memory of seeing Cub Swanson in the cage.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll miss him in the bittersweet way that you miss your favorite characters when a book has a great ending, But I don't wish to see him again. It's not that kind of longing, This was such a beautiful conclusion to an incredible career. It's just watching him, I'm like, this guy is so goddamn good in all these subtle ways that really make or break fighters. That is what I'll really miss. Like a guy who can be kind of wacky and weird and violent and still just be a really solid, technical professional on top of that.
Yep. One of the first of the Davy Grants.
Yeah. And shit, he only barely missed outlasting Davy Grant, who came 10 years after him. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, this truly was like the main event of the card for me. Like, this was the emotional core of the card.
Yeah, 100%. I was just like, whatever happens after this, it just happens.
It's all fine.
There will be meaningful things happening, but honestly, they can go whichever way.
Yep.
I am not going to be bothered, and I wasn't.
Yep. So overall, UFC 327, a pretty banger card. I mean, even Donald Trump's increasingly diseased-looking ass being there the whole time could not really drag it down for me. There was just a lot of good fights, and for as many like depressing results as there were like uplifting moments of inspiration as well. And of course, I'm talking about Cub Swanson, but I include Carlos Ulberg's win in that too. I must insist, that is what combat sports is all about. This whole thing where you can be winning, and then lose in an instant, that is the magic of MMA and combat sports writ large.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who you are or how the fight's been going, or what kind of fighter you are. It's like the Leon Edwards moment. No one will ever be able to take that moment away from Leon Edwards. No one will ever be able to take this moment away from Carlos Ulberg. Like just a moment of just incredible courage and overcoming adversity that very, very few fighters ever get.
Yep. So, I suppose we'll reassess our feelings about Carlos Ulberg in approximately 12 months.
Hooray.
But anyway, UFC 327 is in the books. We've got some mostly bullshit-looking fight night card coming up next week. Of course, what else? Following that, that's Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott, by the way. Following that is a not terrible-looking fight night card at the Apex.
What?
Listen to this, and this will fall apart. Of course, it's 2 weeks away, so none of this is going to happen. But Aljamain Sterling, Yusuf Zalal, solid main event. Rafa Garcia, Alexander Hernandez. I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't know who the guy Davy Grant is fighting, but I'm happy to see Davy Grant. Montel Jackson, Jaime Barcelos. And around there, I guess Norma Dumont, Jocelyn Edwards is something. No, I mean, it kind of runs out. But it's not nothing. It's not nothing, Phil. I don't have much, okay?
No, it's better than I expected. I mean, it's fights that don't have much name value, I think, to casuals, but a whole bunch of those, I'm like, yeah, I like that. I like those guys.
Damn, the week after that, we're getting Jack Della Maddalena, Carlos Prates.
Cool.
That's a main event. Now we're talking.
That is a genuinely intriguing fight.
Whole rest of the card could suck, and I'm sure it does. And I'll still be happy about that main event. Anyway.
Kind of does.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. Anyway, all of that is for tomorrow. Today, we celebrate UFC 327, and we tell you to check out the Heavy Hands Patreon because we definitely talked about some undercard fights. Pitbull, Pico, Holland, Brown, Gamrot, Rubovich, etc. that did not make it onto the main show. So please check that out, Heavy Hands. Patreon.com/HeavyHands. Find us on Twitter at Evil Greg Jackson. That is Phil's handle. At Boxing Bush. That is mine. And until next week, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.